The race for the White House remains incredibly close between Putin Donald Trump and Cyril Cantwin Harm with less than 24 hours until polls open in United States. A final batch of national surveys show Vice President Harris and former President Trump statistically tied as the candidates make their last-minute pitches to woo any undecided voters who remain. While national polls continue to forecast a race far too close to predict, was found Im leading Truss in food, an unexpected reversal for Democrats and Republicans who have all but written off the state's presidential contest as a certain Trump victory. As the candidates to be the finish, Trump is holding 4 rallies in pivotal swing states, starting in North Carolina before heading to Pennsylvania for 2 campaign stops and wrapping up the day in Michigan. Harris, meanwhile, will conclude her campaign in Pennsylvania by holding rallies in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, followed by a concert in Allentown. Tip later T-Sarking Pell released Monday shows Trump and Harris inked at 48%. The poll of 1,411 likely voters conducted Friday to Sunday showed the statistical tie with less than 24 hours until polls open. The poll had a margin of error of 2.7 percentage points. Significantly, 6% of voters say they may change their minds in these final hours, making each moment critical as the race barrels toward Election Day, Tip found. Harris is leading Trump by 3 percentage points in a new poll from All New PRVO released Sunday. The poll of 2,267 likely voters showed Harris leading Trump 49% minus 46% one day ahead of the election. Conducted Tuesday to Friday, the poll showed Harris' lead was outside the margin of error of 2 percentage points. That scant 3-point difference with Trump matches the average Democratic-Republican gap in the last 8 presidential elections, of which Democrats won the popular vote in 7, ABC News reported. Regardless, the result leaves a wide-open field for the vagaries of the Electoral College. A dispirited electorate marks the end of the 2024 presidential campaign, the poll noted, highlighting that 74% of likely voters say the country is on the wrong track and 60% dissatisfied with their choice of candidates. With voters' attitudes about the economy, with 78% of Trump supporters reporting they've become less well-off under Biden, while just 8% of Harris supporters say so. As the vice president tries to differentiate herself from Biden, 34% of those polled reported thinking she'd maintain the status quo if elected, while 35% think she'd shake things up in a good way, 31% in a bad way. Poll.com released Sunday, which shows both candidates with support from 40% of registered voters. The poll of 1,000 registered voters conducted from Wednesday to Saturday had a margin of error of 3.1 percentage points. The poll defined the contest by intense polarization, including a gender gap of more than 30 points separating the voting preferences of men and women. And no matter who wins the presidential race, 60% of voters believe the country will remain divided, the poll found. Little has changed in voter attitudes. Last month, according to the poll, despite the frenzied campaign activity of the final weeks, and the billions of dollars in advertisements, we've grown further apart, and we've picked our corner, said Republican pollster Bill McInturff of Public Opinion Strategies. Each side is as locked down as it gets, and they don't budge or move. Points in the final poll by Morning Consult, released Sunday. The poll of 8,918 likely voters showed the vice president leading the former president, 49% minus 47%, which is outside the 1-point margin of error. The bulk of likely voters, 45%, said they have recently heard something positive about Harris, maintaining the positive buzz advantage she's held throughout the campaign as it reaches its final weeks, according to the poll, which was conducted from Tuesday to Thursday. Meanwhile, 49% of these surveyed reported recently hearing something negative about Trump. Republicans are more favored than Democrats to handle the economy, national security, crime and especially immigration. Democrats maintain their trust advantages on health care, entitlement programs, climate change and abortion. The final poll from Smarin College Pelling, released Sunday. The poll of 1,000 likely voters found a near identical deadlock when those surveyed were asked who they expect to win. 50% expect Trump to be the victor, while 49% said Harris. Conducted Wednesday to Saturday, the poll had a margin of error of 3 percentage points. However, Harris has a slight edge on Trump when it comes to favorability ratings, with 50% having a favorable view of Harris and 45% having a favorable view of Trump. The findings points to an incredibly close race, said Spencer Kimball, executive director of Emerson College polling, the gender divide is stark, with women favoring Harris by 12 points and men supporting Trump by the same margin. Margin of error describes how accurately can count on the survey results being representative of the entire population. When a candidate's lead is inside the margin of error, it is considered a statistical tie. According to Pew Research Centes, found the majority of pollsters have changed their methods since the 2016 and 2020 presidential elections, where Trump's performance was significantly underestimated.